Hi guys, I'm Mike and this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back to another F1 Worldwide The Fan podcast, and we are welcome today with another special guest onto the channel, more on terms of the kind of online racing scene, I would say, and that is Jess. And Jess, thank you for coming on for the show today.
Hi Mike, and hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited to talk about what's been going on in terms of esports side of things. So should be a good one.
Yeah, and so obviously Jess, and you would have seen from the kind of title as well, today is more focusing on kind of the online base. So obviously with the coronavirus in play, F1 themselves have been kind of tapping into that market as much as well. But it's something that has been growing even before this as well. So what we're going to start off, the whole topic about it is going to be basically about online racing, esports, and kind of everything that kind of goes along with that. So we're going to start off with today's discussion, actually talking about what Jess does, because Jess, you actually commentate on some online leagues, don't you?
Yes, I do. It's been a lot of fun, really. I can basically tell you how I've got started in commentating. It was well, I started online gaming with the F1 games back in 2017 properly, and 2014 I discovered the F1 YouTuber side of things, but didn't really get into it until 2017. I did a bit of league racing here and then, realised I wasn't very good at the league racing side of things, so I dropped out for that a little bit. And then in 2018, it was about February, March time, there was a league which is still going, which is very successful at the moment, is AOR, Apex Online Racing. They were advertising that they needed commentators. So I thought, I would give it a go. I probably wouldn't get in, but I sent a clip to the head commentator at the time, which was King Kodiak, and he liked it, and I've been there ever since. I started a bit of Xbox side on the F1 side, and that was pretty fun. And then I did a bit of Project Cars commentary for a while, which was a new experience. And I did a few other leagues here and there. I think it was about, I can't remember what year it started, but I think it was about October 2018. I moved over also to the PS4 side for commentary. And I think that's where I do most league races and commentary beside it as well. And I think I did ILR as well. And I do a bit of AOR comms for PS4 side as well. And then I became a dirt rally fan as well. I enjoy commentating on there, and it's just I wanted to combine my love for radio I used to do back in the day, and also the love for motorsport which I have, and turn it into commentary. I didn't care if there was any females doing it. I just wanted to do it because it was fun. So that's how I got started, and that's where I'm still am today, and I'm really enjoying it.
That's pretty awesome in terms of how it kind of all spiraled out thing. Like, I think it's often kind of sometimes in life we do something like that. We go, oh, yeah, I'll apply for this. I probably won't get that. Oh, I've got it. Oh, nice. And it's nice. And I imagine you've probably met a load of kind of amazing other motorsport fans and obviously kind of esport players through it, either by maybe in person, but obviously certainly online and through kind of videos and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. One of my biggest opportunities I did was I was able to help out at the F1 esports event back in 2018. It was the first Pro Series event, and I got asked to help out and do the cameras. And within that, I met quite a few esports guys. I met Dan from AOR. He was generally a nice guy. I also met Jack Nichols as well, who was a commentator, and I literally didn't know it was him until he popped next to me and said bye, and I was like, oh my god, that's Jack Nichols. He's a commentator. I can't believe I actually spoke to him, and that was just a surreal experience. And I met quite a lot of guys as well in the Autosport event in January. That was the first actual time where I actually had the confidence to speak to people. I met Sean from the F1 Word, Dan from F1 E-Reviews, and Jordan as well from the F1 Debate Show. Quite a lot of people, and that was just a great experience as well. And it just improved my social confidence as well, because commentating actually gets rid of my social barriers a bit more, because I have a bit of social anxiety at times. But I was very confident to speak to those people because I actually spoke to them online, and it wasn't very daunting to begin with, and it was just a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely amazing. And it's fantastic how it's kind of helped you on that front. And yeah, it's well, I think you probably find the same. You have your channel. It's JessGamer1995, correct? That's
JessGames95.
JessGames95. There we go. Sorry, I did have the title down and then misplaced it there. But yeah, JessGames95. By the way, guys, if you haven't already, go and check out Jess Games. You put out like streams of what you have racing there and commentary streams a bit as well.
Yeah, I mainly put what I've done in other leagues for commentary, and sometimes I do the odd video here and there. And due to the whole coronavirus things, I'm gonna plan to do some more content there on my channel, which is just not commentary. So that should be a lot of fun. So keep an eye out, basically.
Absolutely fantastic, and that's awesome. But I think, that gives your kind of background to the scene of kind of esports and everything on that front. But obviously, as a whole, it's a massively kind of growing thing in the industry. And obviously, Formula One created its esports back in 2017, I believe, actually, when you kind of started putting stuff on YouTube. And yeah, I would say last year, the 2019 season, that was its biggest season to date, wasn't it?
Yeah, it had they had a lot of huge stars in there as well, and this was the season in F1 esports where we saw Brendan Lee. We were expecting to do very well, and unfortunately didn't do as well. And we saw the likes of David Tonizza, who started in the Ferrari team. It was their first ever season, and he went on and won it. And I've actually became very interested in him after he was doing so well in the F1 esports scene as well. And obviously Marcel Kiefer, he's a nice guy. I met him in F1 esports. He's a lot of fun. And also Nicolas Longuet, I enjoy his racing, and he got signed to Renault this season, which I'm really glad. I hope he gets to do a bit more race this season, because he only did one, but he did very well in them. So yeah, it just gets bigger and better every year, really. And I just don't know how they do it, but they just manage to do it so well, and always try to find different things. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with the esports series now due to coronavirus, but I don't know when it's going to happen. But when it happens, it's just gonna take over the whole scene for a little bit, due to the fact that F1 is on hiatus until goodness knows when.
Yeah, absolutely. But that, it has grown from strength to strength, and it is amazing how sports in general is growing. I mean, at the Autosport show, obviously they had the Le Mans qualifiers as well, didn't they? For
Yes.
esports there, and IndyCar have been doing esports to fill in races. NASCAR have been doing it as well. Obviously F1 with some of the drivers who are capable kind of setting up their rigs. But what I find absolutely amazing is obviously the spectacle and the money they've kind of clearly invested in the F1 esports, because the setups in terms of the studio for it to happen it's really quite something impressive now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I never knew how difficult it was until I actually experienced it myself, because there was so many cameras and there was so many buttons to press. And on the first practice session, I was like, "Oh, what was this?" And I even struggled a little bit. But once we got to the live sessions, we was absolutely fine, and we got used to it very well. But it's not just one person sitting behind the camera doing all the buttons. There's quite a lot more people doing that to make sure the broadcast is going from strength to strength. And it is nice that a lot of esports teams are actually taking advantage of this. Veloce actually started they're not the GP, and that I think that's gone from strength to strength as well. I think it was their idea to actually get some F1 drivers into it, as well as some famous names as well. And then F1 decides to jump on board and do a virtual GP as well. So that's quite fun. And we're starting to see more F1 drivers actually get into the sim as well. I remember I've seen on Twitter a few days ago, George Russell actually got his sim sorted out now, and this morning I saw the tweet that he's actually taking part in it. So that's great to see. And also Charles Leclerc and Alex Albon, they're joining Latifi and Norris as well. So it's great to see more F1 drivers actually get involved in the esports thing, because obviously they're spending a lot of time on the simulators, obviously in the actual season, but they're not going to get that much time because of the coronavirus thing. So the more practice they get on the esports, the better, really.
Yeah, and I think It's an absolutely fantastic way of engaging and keeping your community going as well. And obviously, Liberty Media, their main aim is to kind of grow F1. And one of the markets to grow F1 is to get in a younger audience. And by really kind of pumping stuff into this esports and, making it appealing and like exciting and a really kind of well-oiled machine. And obviously, in this break, in Force Break, they can take the opportunity to get the Max Verstappens, the Lando Norrises, the Latifi's, like you said, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Albon. I'm sure Gasly are probably coming at some point, as he was a big advocate of the esports when it was going on last year, wasn't he? I imagine he was speaking very positively about the series. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic way of kind of engaging a whole new audience in Formula One.
Yeah, I think so. And to be honest, I think the biggest key player has definitely got to be, if you agree, Lando Norris as well. He was, oh my God, he's been so funny. And a lot of laughs were done with his challenge Lando thing. But I think Lando was one of those people that I think got a lot more people into Formula One due to the fact that obviously he's young, he's a big social media advocate, and he wants to interact with fans. He even still streams, even throughout the F1 season, he still streams on Twitch. He does a bit of iRacing and stuff, and it just goes to show that F1 drivers are normal people. They're not just like those big celebrities. They are normal people that want to live normal lives. And, the funny bit was in the virtual GP, he even asked the F1 drivers for help. Like, I remember he asked George Russell, what's it like being at the back of the grid? Because I am at the back of the grid now. But that was funny. But yeah, I think Norris is a key advocate. And to be honest, I think he kind of persuaded more drivers to get involved as well. But yeah, it's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Lando Norris, absolutely. I completely agree with you. There is absolutely huge for the kind of esports scene, I would say. Obviously, yeah, like you said, he was with Twitch, often with Max Verstappen, wasn't it, during last season?
Yeah.
But obviously, he's kind of taken a drive forward himself at this time. And he does seem a very relatable guy. And I think he kind of really connects with a lot of people on that basis, and he connects to a whole world that kind of, people are suddenly like, oh, look at this guy, he's just kind of doing what I do, kind of gaming and stuff. But actually, he's a professional racing driver, and he's just really accessible. He's really open. He kind of connects and interacts with people really well. It's just, yeah, it's fantastic for him to see.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people like him. He's likable, and obviously they want to try, like you said earlier, they want to try and get more people into Formula One. When I started watching it, I think in '97, there was hardly any social media at all. And the main reason why I got into Formula One was due to the fact that my family started watching. I was like, hey, what's this? And we sort of got hooked that way for Formula One. But these days, more people are going to get hooked into Formula One due to the esports. They may watch the F1 esports and say, hang on, which game's this? What series is this? And they may watch it that way. So it might be a role reversal. They may get into the real life Formula One based on the esports scene, which is a good thing.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's kind of an audience basis. And I think that leads quite nicely onto our next question in terms of how do you see F1 esports maybe impacting drivers driving in real life. In terms, obviously, in Formula 3, you have Igor Flaga, who used to be, he was a racer, run out of budget, I believe, then went into sim racing, was quite successful there, and then got picked up again, and then obviously just recently won the Toyota Racing Series. And so, how much do you reckon it can relate into real life racing?
Definitely, it does relate to real life racing in a way, because you're learning pretty much the same things on how to control the car. And we've seen quite a lot of drivers, actually, not just Igor Fraga, that's been very successful in sim racing and managed to transfer into real racing. One other example I would say is also James Baldwin. He's been selected to drive for the Jenson Button GT3 team, which honestly I'm literally so happy, because A, I'm a big fan of Jenson Button, and B, James Baldwin is a really nice guy, and he won the world's fastest gamer. And he was talking about how the controls for the GT3 sim were a lot similar to what he experienced in the test days. So you can learn quite a lot from it. And obviously, You obviously start from, I think I know James started karting and he did a bit of Formula Ford and then he ran out of money as well. And then he came back and he's now a very successful racer. He wasn't expecting to start 2020 with racing. He probably expected to do something else. And he's just loving life right now. And obviously Brendan Lee as well. He did a bit of Formula Ford as well. He did quite well. And that also Chen Bolabasi, he did a bit of GT4 as well. He's done quite well in that. It's just, and also Bono Ruiz, I'm trying to think of who else. Enzo Benito as well. There's just quite a lot of people that can prove that esports doesn't mean that you're rubbish at racing. It could mean the exact opposite. And we've seen the likes of the real life drivers do well in the sim as well, and are starting to show their pizzazz, as it were. So it's great to see.
Yeah, no, it is fantastic, and I think obviously a lot of the criticism, one of the criticisms in the lower levels is that racing is so expensive, and so in those kind of junior formula levels, working your way up the ladder to kind of get to a place where you can compete in high level kind of senior motor racing series, it's difficult to kind of get to. You might have the talent, but you might just not have the budget. With esports, it may prove with some guys who go and get their kind of racing experience to a level, then compete within the esports, kind of refining some skills through there, but it's a lot cheaper way to kind of run yourself, and then that might get you the exposure that you need to be able to pick up the sponsorship to then go on to racing in real life, which I think is probably a goal for a lot of the kind of previous guys who've had some sort of racing experience, but some guys I imagine just kind of quite enjoy excelling in the esports scene.
Yeah, there's people that just want to do it for esports and not in real life, which is fair enough. I mean, there is a lot of successful esports drivers that just want to succeed in now and they don't want to move to the real F1 scene, and that's fine too. So, I just enjoy any form of esport at the moment because it is a great entertainment basis, and we're already seeing a huge amount of talent every year. It's not usually the same talent that succeeds every year. It's like we may see a dark horse do well. Like we've seen Rasmussen, he's done well like for the whole seasons that he's been on, which is great. He's either been winning a lot of races, and he's every time in the esports series he's been so close to winning the actual title. But surely I think this year he's going to be one of those years where he's going to be fighting for the title no matter what he's got to knit. So he's also got Kiefer as well, who's in Red Bull this season. It's just going to be a really close fight. But the actual league races, there's competition there as well. I do a bit of league racing for fun, and I just do it because I want to improve my racing. I don't just do it because I want to win. And some of these guys, they just want to be better. They don't care where they finish as long as they improve. That's the main thing. So it doesn't matter what the reason is, as long as you enjoy it and have fun. Then that's why people should do esports, really.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a way of it's probably a really accessible way of making some people, may have dreamed growing up or just been like, what does it feel like to be kind of a racing car driver? Obviously, within just kind of your racing sim at home, and even if it's as simple as something on your controller, it's obviously not going to have as so much real life repercussions, but you can at least set up the camera views and stuff, and from playing the F1 games myself, it just kind of, you almost lose yourself in it for a bit, and it is kind of, you just kind of get a small little taste of going, like, it's incredible what it could be, especially kind of when they've introduced stuff like classic cars on the game. So going back and seeing some of the real old versions of the car, and you go, wow, this is insane. Like this feels very open in terms of just the viewpoint. I think more than anything else kind of is a bit crazy for people.
Yeah, one thing I think they should introduce, I think, is classic tracks. They introduce classic cars, they should introduce classic tracks, because that's one thing I want in the game for so long, because the classic cars just give you a very unique experience. The 2004 Ferraris, that engine, that sounds really nice to drive as well. And the Brawn, I love driving as well, because obviously I'm a big Jensen Button fan back in the day. But yeah, it's just like people just want to get into that experience of what F1 was like beforehand as well. And obviously, F1 TV allows you to actually watch past seasons as well. So maybe the younger audience can see what F1 was like in the past as well and see what it has become as well. So obviously, Lewis Hamilton has been very successful. He could be on course to winning his seventh title, which I think is going to be likely. And maybe we may see future stars in the making. Perhaps we'll find out anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating to see what the journey will be. It would be incredible, wouldn't it? Say like it would probably be something like, say, 10 years time. Someone might come in and go, "Oh, how did you start getting into F1 and your racing?" "Oh, I started kind of, sim racing in my room, and then I got into karting or whatever, or I kind of got into kind of junior formula and worked my way up through there." That would be a pretty incredible backstory, I think, on that front.
Yeah, that'll be amazing to see, and obviously Frago is a good example of that. He got into the GT Sport side of things, and then obviously quite a few people picked him up, and I really hope that he does well, that he proves to the sim racing novices that you don't have to start from your karting days, you don't have to start doing real life racing in order to be successful, because like we said earlier, it's the same type of skills. Fargo's doing amazing. He's proved to everyone that he can win series, not just in esports. So, I wish the best of luck to him, and I hope he does well, because he's going to be a big threat if he continues in the real life racing scene for years to come.
Well, absolutely. And just recently he was picked up by the Red Bull Academy, wasn't he? So that was absolutely huge backing for him as well. And just, I suppose it's kind of really been a crazy couple of years for Fraga in terms of how it's kind of took off for him in the kind of real life racing scene.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think it's going to inspire quite a few more drivers to do the same thing. The ones who want to get into the esports scene from an early age and try to work their hardest, but you can't just expect to go onto a sim and be good straight away. It takes years and years of practice just to get good. There may be some people that will do well in a year, but that's probably the minimum amount it takes. You can't be good right away, but there's people that can do well on the pad, which I don't know how, because when I go on a pad to do sim racing, I do absolutely rubbish. That's why I stick to a wheel, but I just can't go back to it. It's so shaky, but it just goes to show you can pretty much do it on anything and still succeed, which is pretty nice. But the wheel, I think obviously most people do for esports. Obviously in the F1 esports they use Fanacet, but I just hope a lot more people get a chance to experience what esports have to offer anyway. Even just have a go. Even if you're not good at it, you just still have a lot of fun anyway. And what I've noticed as well, there's big content creators such as the likes of Arava, Tia McMurdoch, Limitless as well. They've inspired some of these guys to actually do esports in the first place. They're kind of like the influencers of the F1 esports community as well. Raggy as well, who I've came across, Ryan as well. So it's not just real life drivers who inspired people, and Lando Norris is the ones who actually started content creating, not just because they're esports drivers, but because they have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that was probably original F1 YouTube, really. How it kind of took off in its place was not necessarily the kind of talking about the real life races or anything like that. It was very much that kind of core of people playing the F1 games and uploading and taking advantage of the gaming community. Obviously you spoke about Arava and Tiet Mark and Matty Gallagher. I used to kind of be back in the day, didn't they, kind of growing up. So that's what drove it forward, I think, in the early stages.
Yeah, that's how I first got. I first knew about the F1 racing scene. I'm like, hang on, you could do videos from the F1 games. That's pretty cool. And without them, I probably wouldn't be making videos today. I mean, they've been doing streams and all that, and YouTuber Championship. I think a lot of people know the YouTuber Championship. That was a lot of fun to watch back in the day, but obviously, I saw Matty G commentating as well, and I was like, hang on, this could be a thing that I do. So, And Limitless does always races and stuff, and people, I've read a few tweets, a few people did league racing because of Limitless as well, and joined AOR because of him, and is a huge inspiration for some of the guys to actually compete at the highest level as well. So yeah, I enjoy people inspiring other people. It's just like, you want to do well, but you want to inspire others to do exactly the same to get more people interested in not just esports, but racing in general.
Yeah, absolutely. It must be incredible for those guys to look back and go, wow, we've had a really major impact on the scene, and just how we've kind of reached a load of people with what we're doing just for fun, which essentially what is a lot of people do in terms of their starting videos. This might be a bit of fun, and then, you know, sometimes it just kind of takes off to more than you probably could have imagined it to be. But you know, also with the esports, F1 in the game itself has massively been promoting it and kind of making it more accessible for anyone really to compete in this year. But the calendar at the moment is 10 rounds. Do you see that calendar expanding in years to come?
I think it could potentially, but there were talks. I think I remember them actually starting pretty much close to the F1 season as possible, but due to the coronavirus, that's probably not going to happen. But yeah, I can see it grow and grow as the years go on. Like I was saying earlier, it changes every year to make it as successful as it can be. It'll be nice that for most races next in the years to come, there'll be 50% races, because it challenges the drivers a lot more. It gives them a bit more endurance, and that is what the guys who take part in the virtual GP and the not the GP have to deal with. They have to deal with 50% races as well. And obviously, when you league race, it's generally 50%. So, you know, you want to challenge those drivers more than anything. 25% is all right if you want to get the attention span of a younger audience. But if you want to be the best you can be, you got to challenge yourself day after day.
Well, it may come to a case where obviously they do something similar to what the feeder series do in like F2 and F3, and have like sprint races and feature races. So you might have like a couple of rounds, half the rounds say are kind of the 50% races, and then half the rounds are the 25% races that they currently are. And so that would be kind of a good blend and a good mix, and it would kind of, you know, feed people in more. There'd be something, there'd be the challenge for the drivers, and, you know, maybe a little bit more place to kind of show off and showcase their talent. But also, you know, with those sprint races, you can still kind of engage an interactive audience, as it's a shorter time frame to kind of film the race.
Yeah, maybe they could possibly start off with sprint races to introduce people into the sport, but as it gets on and on, maybe do the 50% races. But yeah, having a mixture, I think, would be a good idea, not only for the audience, but also for the drivers as well, to experience what life is like being an F1 driver. Because I've seen the amount of effort an esports team have put into actually training their teammates. Like Renault caught my eye last season. They really stepped it up in terms of their preparation. They even went to their simulator. They went to their factory as well to see what it's like. They did training together. I know Williams did, Red Bull, Mercedes. It's not just you turn up to the Pro Series and expect to be good. They're actually taking it, they're treating it like a real life job, and that is very, very impressive. And that's why the likes of Red Bull, they've won the constructors for esports, whereas Mercedes were a little bit lower down because they were expecting them to be the only ones treating it as a full-time job. But because they seen what Mercedes were like in 2018 in the F1 esports scene, more teams actually needed to step up their game, and they proved themselves, and that's why it was a much more closer field last season more than anything as well. It's just great that a lot of people are taking it more seriously now and treating it as a commitment.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I imagine that's just a reflection of gaming as a whole, because obviously gaming professional scenes have been growing and growing for years. So I imagine that they've probably just taken influence, of recent. Obviously, FIFA with their kind of esports kind of took off, but the kind of shooting games like Call of Duty, they've been kind of having their professional gaming series been properly professional for years now. So I suppose F1 in that aspect is kind of catching up on that game, but I think the most exciting thing for F1 is that there is an audience for it. They're doing this, they're kind of putting on a big show, but people are actually interested in it. So yeah, that's absolutely kind of amazing and testament for the sport growing, I think, with a younger audience, that people actually want to tune in and watch these esport events.
To be honest, Liberty Media taking over Formula One has probably been the best thing that's ever happened to this sport, because I don't think with the organisation that was there before, I don't think they would have gone to that scale, because for some of the organisations, they want to forget the future and focus more about the current climate. The current things work well, there's no point changing it. Whereas Liberty, they want to think of ways to improve the sport day after day. And when I first found out F1 esports was a thing, I was like, oh, that's an interesting thing Liberty's doing. And the fact that Sky Sports are actually broadcasting the F1 stuff, the esports stuff, it's just a testament, really. I think a lot, due to the coronavirus thing, a lot more people are actually going to hear not about the real life stuff first, but the esports stuff first, and then see what the real F1 has to offer when it actually starts.
Yeah, it's been an incredible boost actually for it, hasn't it? That is absolutely fascinating to think, isn't it? Yeah, there is a big winner from this kind of corona break, and that is probably the esports scene. But this has kind of been a good chat, I think, within there, and I think we've kind of covered all areas on it. But if there is anything you kind of want to end on in terms of talking about esports, maybe kind of, if there are any listeners out here listening going, oh, you know what, I'd like to kind of give it a try or give commentary a try like you do. What would you kind of advise on that front?
I'll go from two different perspectives. Firstly, I'll go from a league racing or esports side of things. Literally, for most leagues, you can start from any time, and you don't have to be good right away. Like pretty much all games have use assist. So if you're not confident in using no assist, then you could try and race with assists and still get confident in that. And then gradually, the more better you become, if you start to get confident in turning one assist off, you can do that. And the leagues that I'm in the bottom league and still have a lot of fun doing that. And you don't have to, it doesn't matter what gender you become. Let me rephrase that. It doesn't matter what gender you are to compete in anything or even do a passion that you enjoy in. And in terms of commentary, the first number one rule I think in commentary is preparing. You can't just turn up to a commentary session and expect to know things right away. You got to know the track. You got to know the drivers that you're commentating for. You got to know the commentary style of your commentary partner as well. And obviously, you got to know about the strategy as well. You basically got to know what you're talking about. You got to research the series. You got to research the format as well, and try and get some experience as well of commentary. Maybe just commentary on your own, maybe on some sprint lobbies or something like that, to try and get some experience. And then once you're comfortable, maybe do a bit of smaller leagues as well. Try and get noticed there, and then once you're feeling more confident, try to express interest in the bigger leagues as well. And then that's how I started. Really, I started quite small, and I can't believe I'm still where I am today, and I've still got a long way to go. Yeah, I would like to potentially commentate on a bigger esports scene. So at the moment, I'm doing league racing commentary at the moment, but it will be amazing if I get to even be involved in F1 esports commentary in the future, or even other esports series in the future. But only time will tell. But start small. It doesn't matter where you start, and we all got to start somewhere, and get feedback if you can as well. I think when you start commentary, you want to know how to improve yourself and speak to someone who's more experienced, maybe saying, hey, I've just done a commentary session. Can you give me any tips on how to improve? Because if you expect to be good, then what's the point in doing commentary? You need to learn how to improve yourself. And one advice I was given for someone was to listen to yourself back after your first few commentaries. I know it may be boring and you may hate the sound of your own voice, but that has helped me so much. Sometimes I listen back to myself, I'm like, hang on, my commentary didn't sound good then. I need to think of ways to improve, and I just get better day after day for it. But the moral of the story is, if you have a passion for league racing or esports or commentary, just go for it. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Absolutely, and I think that's fantastic advice. And you know, when I kind of get guests onto the podcast, we usually find a topic that they're passionate about, and you know, it's come across in this entire episode how passionate you are, Jess, about kind of the whole esports scene, the whole kind of league racing scene, and it's really been kind of like a fascinating insight into that world, into a little bit more depth. And you know, you spoke about there with your kind of knowledge and knowing what you're on about, and you very much clearly do on that, and you've just kind of embraced this world and thrown yourself into it. And you know, I wish it kind of gives you all the rewards and everything you want to get from it that you can get. So yeah, it's been a fantastic chat, and Jess, thank you very much for coming on. I've really enjoyed this. Have you enjoyed yourself on the podcast?
Yes, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me on, Mike. And I can't wait to do more things with you in the future. I hope we get to do more things, because this has been a great way to spend my day.
Oh, absolutely. No problem at all. We're always happy to collaborate on this channel, as we just often kind of, if we can chat F1 with someone, Jess, then we will do it. And so
yes.
This is an absolutely fantastic way to do it as well. But no, thank you so much. And like I said at the start, if you haven't kind of subscribed to Jess already, please do go and check out her channel. It's some really fascinating stuff. And if you know, already have an insight in this world, or you're just beginning and want to know more about the kind of the virtual racing world, I would highly recommend going and subscribing and checking what Jess does with JessGames95 on that one. But guys, if you're new around here, you can also subscribe to the channel. Click that bell notification, and so you can keep up to date with all our latest content in this Corona break, and more kind of F1 Worldwide's, the fan podcast that come out every Saturday during this break. But again, Jess, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely no problem at all, and I'll look forward to, we'll definitely get together and have more F1 chats in the future. It'll be absolutely brilliant. But for now, you F1 fans, keep racing.